Hey there everybody, it's Mark Crowley. I'm back with another How to Draw video. Today we're going to be doing a video on how to draw armor. I am not a huge expert on this, so bear with me, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to begin with a single guideline. I don't even know if you can call this a guideline. It's just going to be a single straight line, more or less vertical, straight up and down. It's maybe a little bit tilted to the left. It doesn't really matter too much though. But I'm going to be using this as my central guideline to start building these different basic structures around. Now the first thing I want to draw is the helmet up here at the top. And I decided to use as reference Infinity Blade as my basic source of inspiration here. I'm not trying not to do an exact copy of any one of those characters, but it is sort of the basic structure. Rather than just winging it, I decided to get some influence there. So I'm beginning, and we'll be doing a lot more detail on this later on, but I'm beginning with just a basic sort of bullet-shaped helmet. And down here, the way that I saw in one of these Infinity Blade characters was that there are these structures that come right around the base of the helmet that are maybe just sort of protecting, giving added protection to the area of the neck. But I thought it was interesting in this case that they actually were coming out and above the base of the helmet. Which, you know, different styles of armor will be doing different things in that regard. But I decided to follow that, introduce that into my design. Now, the first big thing that we do up here at the top of the body is going to be a shoulder, a big old shoulder protective, not shoulder pad, what would you call it? You know, stand back, people, because you know I never know the words for things, but with armor, whew, I'm going to be just making up words all over the place. This here shoulder thing, there's two of them, of course, one for each shoulder, and you know, different characters you can come up with. You can experiment and come up with your own shape, your own design. I decided to make this character turning a little to one side, which I think just makes it visually a little more interesting. But you can see that there's a kind of an octagonal sort of feeling going on with this basic shape here. Before I go too much further, I want to go ahead and get the basic chest plate into place. And I saw with almost any variety of armor that you see, there is going to be some variety of chest plate in the design. And so, again, it's up to you as to how you design it, what shape you make it. I'm trying to keep mine simple, and it divides into two basic parts. Now, that first guideline that I put in there, that's basically for helping me see where the center of this structure is going to be all the way down to the bottom. And I'm going to just keep this a little bit light right now while I'm figuring out the basic shape. But my concept, and this is certainly not true of all artists, but I wanted to have a chest plate that sort of echoed the real muscle structure of an actual human body. So you're going to see as I get further into the details later on that my chest plate does sort of resemble a little bit you know, the pecs, and maybe even have an echo of that six-pack type muscle structure. But like I said, I saw a lot of people that utterly ignored that. They weren't trying to replicate that at all. Now, because this person's turning away from me, this other sort of shoulder guard type thing, I can't wait till in the comments everyone's going to be telling me, Mark, they are called, you know, whatever. Everyone's going to know what it is, and I'm going to be the only person who doesn't know. I really should research, right? Does it ever occur to you, Mark, to research these things before you start trying to teach them? But it's become a tradition now. It wouldn't be one of my videos if I knew the names for everything. So anyway, I'm going over here and doing the upper arm, the sort of bicep area, making it nice and big. And this area later on is going to be covered with chainmail. So we'll be getting into the challenges of drawing that. And over here I am drawing a large, what will eventually be a large sort of forearm protective area. This guy is pretty well completely covered with armor in my design. You know, I saw there's all so many different ways of doing it. Sometimes people are barely covered. You know, they have like the shoulder protective area, but then their arms are completely bare. The most ridiculous ones I've seen are like for female characters where they're like almost all the flesh is exposed. And I mean, come on, it's clearly just for the benefit of male readers, I think, mainly, just to make it appealing in that way. But I like when I'm drawing armor to try to think at least a little bit of what realistically you would need in terms of protection. Now I'm getting down here to later on we're going to be drawing a hand down here. This is, you know, drawing hands is always tricky. The nice thing I think about when you're drawing armor-covered hands is everything gets a little bit simplified and sort of mechanical looking, so you don't have to worry so much about a natural-looking, you know, structure for the fingers and so forth. Everything is looking very blocky and bulky right now, but we're working our way towards a basic structure that I'm going to be able to use for adding further details and make this look a little cooler later on. Now, I noticed some artists would create a whole fancy type of structure built around the waist area. And this almost, to me, seems to echo a little bit a Japanese mecha kind of a look, and I wonder if that's almost a tradition, that there's a little bit of crossover between even this medieval-looking armor and a certain mecha-type sensibility, you know, the robot, the sort of classic Japanese robot approach. If you hear a little bit of a noise there, I'm sorry. I'm that's my computer. I'm burning a CD right now. I need to. These movies that I make, these videos, take up a lot of space on the old hard drive, and I have to periodically burn them onto CDs so as to clear up space to keep making sweet videos for you, my YouTube audience out there. So now I'm moving into a sort of central protective shape that comes all the way down here. For me, it's going to divide into two basic areas, and it echoes again these side areas, and it sort of divides into three. You know, there's two sides, there's a central area. And the fun part is just sort of coming up with your own designs of what part fits in front of what part and so forth. I think what I'm going to say is that these side areas actually come in front of the center area. But you can really just go to town coming up with your own design. The trick is when the character is turning away from you like this, you have to bear in mind that everything that's over on this side gets really condensed and you're almost sort of seeing it from the side. So that's sort of like a challenge of pre-visualizing things and imagining what they will look like from various points of view. But, you know, in general, when you're drawing something that is a three-quarter point of view like this, and I should say also we're sort of looking up at him a little bit, just to give him that imposing soldier of doom, the knight of darkness kind of point of view. We are looking up at him a little bit to make him all that more imposing. Well, I'm almost done with this area over here doing the hands, and I think we can start to tighten things up. But as we do that, I think it would be helpful for you guys to get a closer view of the details of like the helmet area. So I'm going to go ahead and readjust the focus here so that you can see what I'm doing there. Okay, so here's the deal, people. You know, I think I've already used about 9 minutes getting to this point in the video, and I have made some very long videos lately, so I'm going to try to move a little quickly through things this time instead of laboring over each and every detail. Let me just say in general that, you know, for the helmets, it seems to me you've got the one ground rule is that we need some place for the eyes to see out of the helmet, and beyond that, you are free, really, to just come up with any design you want to. In fact, I mean, you know, you could even forget about that rule and come up with a helmet that has no eyes at all. He sees with his soul straight into your soul before cutting you down. But I did say in the lion's share of these helmet designs I saw, there is some sort of cutaway section for the eyes, and then that'll get all darkened in later on. I'm going to give a sort of a secondary area here that comes down. With my design, I came up with a little horizontal, or I mean vertical area here that to me echoes a lot of these old Roman helmets. So the designs that I'm doing around this, it's all sort of built off of this basic eye area, and then you come up with whatever other design type things that you want to do to add a little more flair to it. So I'm adding a couple of extra lines up here at the top, say, just to sort of finish things off. And as I go through this whole design process, you're going to see me adding little bolts. I like the idea of actually seeing the bolts that hold this thing together. I think it makes it more convincing in terms of it being made of metal. And so even this sort of neck guard area here, you could also, if you want to, add a couple of bolts in there. So many details in a drawing like this, and that's why I'm going to try to move through this quickly so that I don't end up with a ridiculously long video. So let's go ahead and do the shoulder pad area. I'm just going to call them shoulder pads, people. I don't care what they're called in real life. In my world, they are shoulder pads. But I like to give a little border area around the whole edge of the shoulder pad. And what I decided to do to make mine a little more interesting is to put a nice big honkin' spike up at the top. I don't know if this comes from real armor designs, but you certainly see it in like video game armor and stuff, adding a nice big spike there makes your character look all the more tough and lethal. And, we could go in here and add periodically bolts as well. Matter of personal preference. A lot of people might not like the dorky looking bolts and want to say, hey, forget that, man. I'm going for sleek and modern. In fact, there were a lot of, I asked by way of my Facebook page for suggestions on what kind of things people would like to see in this video. That is facebook.com/markcurleyofficial. I have to just throw out there in case anyone wants to follow me on Facebook. But I did. I asked people, what would you like to see in a video that is about armor? And a lot of people were like, do samurai armor, do futuristic armor, like Halo, that kind of thing. And so obviously there are a lot of different ways I could go with this, and I think I'm going to have to just do a whole series of videos. But I see now that I'm getting down to the bottom of my video frame, and I have to readjust the focus. And maybe before I do that, I'll just indicate the chest area. I told you how I wanted the chest plate to echo the actual muscles of the human body, and so that's indeed what I'm doing right here, sort of creating an area that looks a bit like the pecs. Yeah, the pecs, man. Some people liked my Arnold imitation, other people not so much, Mark. Please stop torturing us with your fake Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. But this gives you an idea of how I would have the chest area sort of reflected in the actual chest plate. But, a lot of people, they'll just go to town coming up with any kind of thing that they want to do in that area. They don't necessarily have it echo the human muscle structure. So you can really have complete freedom, I think, to come up with any design that looks cool to you. Well, I think I'm at the bottom of the visible frame right now, and like I said, I do want to try to keep this thing moving. So I am going to pull back and maybe go through a lot of these other details in time-lapse, but then come back and explain the choices that I made. Okay, so you can see I flew through an awful lot of stuff there in time-lapse. Just some quick notes on decisions that I made. I put a little strap here that sort of holds the chest plate in place. Little extra details like that can help. You can see that I did an echo of that spike that I'd put on the shoulder pad down here on this sort of forearm area. And, you know, otherwise it's just very important to get a sense of the structure and, you know, maybe putting in an extra line here, making sure that there's sort of a central line that a lot of this stuff is constructed on, can help give you, you know, a sense of realistic three-dimensionality rather than if you're just sort of winging it and making it up as you go along. But I want to zoom in on this area right here to show you my approach to doing chainmail, and that may sadly have to be the last thing that we have in this video. So let's go ahead and get into that. Okay, so I've zoomed in here, and you know, drawing chainmail, of course, actual detailed chainmail is very, very challenging. It would be so detailed, but I'm going to show you my sort of shortcut way around it. I'm doing these slightly zigzaggy lines, slightly curved to follow the muscle underneath, and I'm doing them in a diagonal lower left to upper right. Okay, and it's not looking real good right now. In fact, it won't look good until I'm toward the end. But by giving it just a little bit of a zigzaggy, scribbly quality, when I go back in and make the opposite thing, which is also at a slight curve, those little zigzaggy things help to give the suggestion of this being interlocking tiny chains, you know, links, rather than, you know, if I just go straight across with really smooth lines, it's going to look a little more like lizard skin or fish scales or something, which you might want, you know, but I'm just showing you one way of getting it a little more uneven looking. And then after I've got this in place, I'm going to actually deliberately erase away an area over here to create a sort of a shimmer of light. So sometimes you actually lay down lines that you know later on you're going to get rid of by way of the eraser. Such are the sacrifices of the artist. All that work, all those hours gone. But you put those, you know, you erase array right there, and then to add, and later on I'm going to be doing a lot more shading, but to add to that feeling of shimmering light, you know, there's going to be shading over here that, you know, the light is coming from the upper left, and so the shadows are all going to form on the lower right. But notice that my shadows aren't going all the way to the edge. In fact, if you really want to go shimmery, you create a secondary glimmer of light right there on the far right edge, and then you get a real sort of shimmery chainmail looking effect. Well, I'm sorry that I'm not able to go step by step through every last part of this lesson, but I do, you know, I've had a lot of like 20, 25-minute videos lately. I feel like we got to try to keep this one reasonably short, you know, short, boy, by my standards. Very long by most people's standards. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I'm going to add, with my trusty black Prismacolor, some final line work and shading and pretty much everything I need to do to finish off this drawing, and then we'll be back for some final words. All right, well, I zipped through so much in time-lapse there. Clearly, I'll have to do another video that focuses a little more on the shading stuff. But the question on my mind is, did he burn down this castle, or was this his castle that somebody else burned down? Dude, you burned down my castle. Why would you do that, man? It's my castle. Dude. Yes, the knight in shining armor, mellow surfer dude. And with that, clearly it is time to end this video. I want to thank everyone, and I mean everyone who has ever supported me by getting one of my books. I got the graphic novel series here, Miki Falls. We got Brody's Ghost, book 3 just came out. And Mastering Manga, my how to draw manga book. I really do deeply appreciate all of the support that you people give me, but I think it's time to lay down this pencil. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll be back with another one real soon.